Welcome, everyone, to another live, where we're going to discuss a very interesting project. I'm kind of hoping that you are all going to mosey on in here eventually. Um, I have the chat up this time so I can actually see it. And since I'm going off webcam this time, it'll be much easier for me to communicate with y'all. So, get off my shirt. What are you? All right, anyway. So, first, let me get some coffee. Stuby fan brand coffee. Good to the last drop. Okay. So, as you can see up behind me, I got the twins there. Kind of, yes, the tree is up. I'm married. Okay. The tree is up. And I've learned not to argue. Just get the tree. All right. There was a lot to discuss over this project because we're dealing with, I'm not just dealing with creating just the motor anymore. There's going to be some testing, obviously, on the stand for the motor so that I can actually get, some real world readouts of the thrust ratio. But we know how Stuby fan version 1 ran. I was looking at roughly 15 to 17,500 RPMs at max throttle on that one. And it was a pretty impressive airflow on Stuby fan 1. It's now eating its own magnets, but that's okay. You got to understand that when I built this system, you're talking about a fan this size with all this mass, and not to mention it's a 22 blade high pass, and it's literally using an 800 kilovolt prop plane motor, right? So that was kind of a milestone for me, was to go, okay, let's pull this, just off the shelf kind of product as far as motors go. And it wasn't even that expensive, but I'm going to be honest with you. I thought, just because I had got this motor from Amazon and it was that turbo brand, it's from Flash Hobby. They're not affiliated with me at all, so they're not compensating me for saying so. I'm just saying that they have decent motors. I mean, first off, you've got a propeller motor that's only 800 kV, 22.2 volts, and it's designed for a 12-inch prop, but it's pushing a 170 millimeter high pass fan with 22 blades. So the fact that it can handle that with no heat sink on it, I'm surprised it lasted as long as it did. And me pushing it like to full throttle, but I don't think I ever got past 15 to 17,000 RPMs, if I even hit 15,000 RPMs. Hey, chat, how's it going? Yeah, I'm a little slow to read the chat. Sorry. So with the new engine that I'm using, I've got two different versions of this. Now, we already know about this one, right? This motor here. And we know how I've eaten up most of my compressor blades at this point. And I've got the Terra Pineapple in the garage. But realistically, for this design, I was going to go with a particular motor that wasn't, because what I was pushing them with to test it was, and I knew these motors would fail. They were just 2100 kV 6S EDF motors for 70 millimeters. Same motors I used on the Shrike, but another set. And I knew that they would push for a while, but I knew the mass and the RPMs would kill it. I knew they would. That's why I had 4 of them. But I wanted to see if I could get everything in balance. And the biggest issue with this system is how the motor is mounted and whether or not it's an in-runner or an out-runner. Now, the problem I had with The turbojet was not only the engine I was using was kind of weak because for the application, but it was an outrunner. So, and it was also dynamically balanced with its blade. So I don't think that they actually balanced the motor cases on the outrunners before they apply it to the blade. They put the whole system together and then the whole thing's balanced. So there's no way I was going to be able to separate those two and then apply it to a different blade without having some kind of balance issue. And that was really the main thing. So, and I knew I was going to burn those motors, but I had to do some testing. So I wanted to try it at the very least. So, RIP for 2100 kilovolt motors. The one that I planned on using for this one is actually for a 90 millimeter Avante. It's called the 90 millimeter Super Scorpion. And it's a 3670 1950 kilovolts. So a little less on the kV, but a little bit more torque because you've got a longer case. So you got more torque. So I think that engine will run very well with that one. And I think I'll get a little less on the RPMs, but if you've got, let's face it, I didn't have stable RPMs at 30, 35, 40,000 RPMs. I don't even make it that high because of the stability of the other engine. So this one's a Predator. Yeah, the Predator 3670 kV 3670 1950 kV. And I think it requires, where is it? Oh yeah, it's the Predator ESC 120 amp for the 90 millimeter. So it's a set, it's a matched set. It comes with a cooled ESC. And this is all from Predator. So that's going to be for that motor. Now for Stuby V2, I'm going to kind of bring it out here. It's not completely put together. We're going to have a video where I do that. This is kind of just, say hi to Shrek. I just put a blade in there to kind of show what I'm doing, what's going on here. So this is sort of the cowling fitting. I'm just getting that, making sure everything's nice and smooth and working correctly. And then you have the blade here. I was just testing that out, not flipping anyone off. And on the backside, which is really hard to see with this camera because, if I had a good camera, probably get it. There's a compressor in there. You are the impeller. You've seen the impeller, and these are falling off because I haven't glued them on either. These are the interior ductwork stators that I put in to rectify the flow on this version. So that's what we're dealing with now. Otherwise, you're dealing with all that turbulence in there created by the case. Plus, having this cap on there leads the air from the fan into a compressed area and then rectifies the flow and then pushes it out that way. Try to do this backwards. So yeah, that's basically how it works. And this isn't the fan I'm going to use for it. This was just something I put in place to make sure everything was smoothly spinning with no sound. You might be able to hear the air. Hold on. Oops. No, that's me hitting the mic. I don't know. I can't hear it because I can't hear what you guys can hear. But so this one right here is what we are pairing with. And I haven't printed, like I said, the reason why I haven't printed the fan for this one yet, and that's why I just use that kind of stand-in fan for now, was to kind of show you the operation. The reason why is because the motor that's going into this one, and you've seen the short on this, most of you. The motor that's going into this one is an ATT Typhoon 868, 680 kilovolt, 120 millimeter motor. It's for 120 millimeter. But I did the calculations on the amperage, and since we're looking at an amp draw, maximum amp draw of 125 amps, I needed something with a burst. So the ESC is actually a Castle Creations Phoenix Edge 160 HV amp ESC. So it's a pretty high-end ESC. So it can handle the burst that I'm going to need. But we are looking at realistically about 43,000 RPMs out of that motor on a 22 bladed high pass fan. That's 170 millimeters. That gave me an exit velocity. Now, this is not real world. This is a theoretical. The theoretical expectations was the theoretical maximum speed is around 937 miles per hour. And I gave it a 10-pound airframe. So I actually considered battery weight and things like that, because this will be running off of 48 volts, not 22.2. The Typhoon, I mean. The Predator will be running off 22.2. It's spinning a lot less mass, so I'm not real worried about that. But and all you gotta do, you all know how to run 22.2 volts in in series, not in series, in parallel series, parallel, I think. Anyway, to get 48 volts, you're like, you better figure that out before you do anything, right? Let me read some of the chats here. Okay. Yeah. Rip the SK and the SGS. Yeah, I killed him. Hey, Spider, how you doing? Glad you're here. You have no clue what this is? ESC? Are you okay? Hold on. Are you asking me what the ESC is, more? I It's okay. It's okay. Oh, all right. So I have no idea what you guys are talking about right now. Anyway, I'll try and translate that later. It's in kid language. I was born in the 70s. Okay, so think backwards, then talk. So the real world expectation is 937 miles per hour for the speed of this. Not the real world, sorry, the theoretical, according to the numbers. Real world expectations, we can get 500 to 600 miles per hour, and this is considering the airframe, which I'm going to go with, and I discussed this with Chad already. I'm going to go with the F-35 style of frame because it's perfect for the style of engine that I've created. Plus, it gives me room if I want to, like, later on add an afterburner. Now, I'm going from having to 3D print the entire engine to using an MPCNC that I had put together for a friend of mine to cut out after I go into Fusion and basically spar the body out. I'm going to, spar it out section by section, then do the airfoil. And then we're going to cut those spars out on the MPCNC, probably out of a fairly thick balsa, use some carbon fiber rods for reinforcement, so on and so forth. And then then we'll skin it. We'll skin it with something like I need something that can handle the heat. The friend of mine who owns the shop that he's putting together, that I'm going to be doing a lot of the major work in when I do the bigger stuff that nobody knows about yet. Some of you know, but not all of you. He was thinking about let's do the body after we create the internals. Let's do the body out of an aluminum, an aircraft grade aluminum, a thin one. He's got a hammer mill, so he's got pretty much everything we've got to shape it. And that was just to get those leading edges and everything and the skin protected, because to be perfectly honest, if I can get this thing to Mach 1, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be very happy with that. Because you're talking about a 3D printed system. And the next phase of testing is going to be whether or not the main high pass fan can handle the Typhoon for an extended period of time at at least 80% to 80 to 90% throttle, just to give myself some room to play with. Gotta have a little bit of room to play with. You're gonna steal the pink Stubby? It sounds horrible. We should never say that again. So, Chad, I wanted to show you something, man. This is the 15 ounce version. It has that logo on the back. You gotta get one. You're like, you bastard! You didn't tell me you were selling those. Well, that's because Etsy had a heart attack on the first store. So I've got the new store link up, but I haven't opened it yet because I'm still making sure that they don't violate me out for something that they said that I did. Because the first store was up, and they said, then all of a sudden the next day they closed it and said you violated the policy or something. I don't know why. They didn't tell me why. And they didn't give me my revenue. So they took my money and closed my store. So I had to open up a different store under DPC merch, which will be up as soon as I can ensure that the Etsy mafia is not going to come up and rob me again. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Then you'll be able to get cups. I'm going to do shirts, hoodies, the colder weather shirts and stuff like that. And I've got some designs I've got in mind. So those will be up. What are you saying, Mo? Wait, Spider, hold on. It's gonna steal the turbine. Is that what's going on? Yeah. So back to what we were discussing. The Typhoon is going to give me the power that I'm looking for. It has a significant amp draw, but I've got the overhead with the 160 volt or amp castle. The only thing is with these Typhoons is when you're running a heatsink, and that brings me back to what I was saying about the outrunners. They're not really balanced. In runners are inherently balanced because they want to balance those out first because it's harder to balance them. I guess you could dynamically balance an in runner if you didn't want to go through the trouble. But if you're selling a motor specifically by itself, it should probably be balanced. So I'm trusting that the Typhoon is balanced because I'm not buying it inside of a 120 millimeter EDF. I'm just buying the motor in the ESC. So, stupid chair, squeak quieter. Anyway, so the idea is that since it's balanced, since the end runner is more balanced, I noticed even with the 800 kV that I was using from Flash Hobby, the turbo, that even though it was an outrunner, I had it mounted at the base, and the outrunner was actually connected straight to the spool into the blade. And even though it was an outrunner, it's because of the way it was mounted, it was balanced fairly well. Because I'm going to assume they balance those motors when they sell them separately, because they're prop motors. Who wants to deal with wobbly props? That's probably why it was so easy to adapt that to the high pass fan, and then through my conversion, make a decent motor that still to this day, even with magnets breaking apart. Now you need a mug collection. Yeah, you get it. Okay. Don't worry, it'll be available soon. But I just love how clean the back end came out. Chad's flipping me off right now. I can see it. So this motor being inherently an in runner, and that goes for the Predator too when it comes to the other engine with the turbojet. Those, because the turbojet specifically designed for an F-22 model that I want to do. So, and that's because you have actually 2 turbine engines. So, and of course, Stuby is more of a high pass. I'll move a lot of air very fast and get it up there. So the numbers don't lie. We did the math. I've gone over blade pitch, blade diameter, tip speed, all that other stuff. And the only thing that's questionable that I haven't tested on this yet is going to be that that impeller that I put inside the lower turbine section. So that's going to cause a little bit of performance differences as opposed to the other Stuby fan. But excuse me. The purpose behind that is that now I can extend the nozzle out and run an afterburner. So if my rear low pressure turbine section is now an impeller spinning at 43,000 RPMs, I can now realistically run an afterburner separately from the whole system. And that'll be that afterburner push that I need if I need to. So I may incorporate that into the whole F-35 aircraft design because of the fact that I'm going to have a long enough thrust tube out the back to where I can not only insulate it from the heat, but make sure that it can that I have enough room to put in a fuel ring, an igniter, and so on and so forth. So having an afterburner on this is possible. And since we didn't calculate the possibility of an afterburner in the initial calculations, I think they're going to be higher. Expectation? Hopefully Mach 1. I'd be happy with 500-600 miles an hour. Because then it just means I'm on the right track, right? But if a 3D printed engine can handle that kind of power and under load, under stress, under maneuvers, then I think at low speeds it's gonna be totally fine. I think it's not gonna be a problem at all. Merry Christmas from Santa, only 50 years younger and interested in non-reindeer. Yeah, no reindeer propulsion. That's it's too bad. What is it, Mogs? To whom, Chad? It doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? No, because I was saying Chad's gonna be mad at me because he got a cup, but I think he got the 12-ounce version, and it didn't have the DPC logo on the back. And now he's like, is that what you're talking about, Spider? I don't know what you guys are talking about. Oh, what about the Sherberg? Stop it. I was running out of filament. I had no choice. What is the character? How do you, I don't even know how to pronounce that. It's Santa colors. It's Santa's colors. The pink and the white is Santa's colors? Are you sure? I'm not sure what Christmases you've been to, but I don't recall pink being part of Santa's. Oh, the turbojet. Okay, I got you. I got you. Yeah, that's Santa colors right there. That's Santa colors. That's how the reindeer fly. There's one shoved firmly up each one of their. Anyway, they that's how they propel, man. You know, they breathe in the oxygen, it gets filtered through along with their methane, and then there you go, Santa's off. Okay, Mugs, we get it. You like the Stubby fan. Do you want it? What's wrong, Spider? I don't know what he's on about. All right, so back to what I was saying. So this is without the entire ductwork, obviously. But I needed flow rectification, so I designed these on top of the anti-turbulence caps, which I had to make sure fit properly. They will once I get them all snapped into place. But the idea is that you have enough rectification. Rectification. Don't mince words. To make sure that fan's delivering at the right angles. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right. And the cowling, we already know what it looks like. My wife waited to put it on earlier, so she said I look like Shrek. I think it's a good look for me. What do you think? The work? It's odd to me that the ductwork for this fan is bigger than my head. But that goes to show you how big the engine is. So that's where we're going with that. So I'm trying to put it on. Okay. All right. So yeah, a lot of work still yet to go. We are before you see anything plane related, you're gonna see this engine spin up with that Typhoon. So I am not even certain how I'm gonna hold that thing down, but I gotta figure it out. I've got the hard points that I had meant, and that's why there's those two sections here. They're for carbon fiber rods that go to mounting points. Traditionally, I mean, I expected it to be under a wing, so I had 2 points here and then a rear mount point back here because this is barely the front of the casing, you know. And I wanted to make sure all the bolt holes were aligned with the motor mount holes and the motor mount itself, so I had to design all that in there. That way, this thing is modular, just like the other motor is modular. The motor mount needs to be strong enough to push back against the fan, because the only other option is when the key link goes into the shaft to the turbine in the middle, that key link is hexagonal. So it's as you slide it in, giggity, and put the fan on, there is no way to push the motor or keep the fan from getting pushed out unless I add a permanent keeper, which means it's hard to pull the motor back apart. So the mount itself has to be strong enough to basically, because the fan's going to push against the spool, and the spool, of course, is attached to the motor. So, and a lot of people are saying, well, that's a lot of force to put on those internal bearings. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I mean, if it's attached to a 120 millimeter fan and it's pulling, it's still dealing with those forces. So I think I'm good. Yeah, I probably do need a torque calculator. But with the dimensions of the blade, I was able to calculate how much torque I was dealing with. So yeah. You want the prototypes for the stubbies? What are you gonna do with them? No, I definitely do need something to hold it down. So I'm literally, I would think I've got like 3 old 3D printers out there. I'm gonna build some kind of rig, and then I need a load sensor so I can test everything as I'm running it. I'm trying to keep up with chat, so if I sound silent for a second, I apologize. I would make a plane. What do you think I'm gonna do? I can't print it. I mean, I could section by section, but that would just be a disaster. Just at 500 miles an hour. So the idea is to have a sparred style airframe that's reinforced. Basically, it's just going to be the profiles. You know what I'm talking about. Like an old balsa wood model where you're putting up the frames, but it's going to be much thicker. And the friend of mine I was talking about was actually talking about doing it with the plasma table and doing it out of a lightweight aluminum, so that when I run the carbon fiber rods down, it's a little bit more rigid. I'm going to weigh that against the weight of a thick balsa, but my main concern is the skin and the leading edges, because that's going to take on the most heat at the high speed. So we're basically in the phase of I'm creating the profile, in Fusion. I'm doing the whole symmetry profile around the turbine, and then I'm going to end up building the body and so on and so forth. I have to decide what's going to be more beneficial. A dual cambered out stabilizer system or a single straight stabilizer. I can't remember. I think the F-35 is just one stabilizer, isn't it? Or is it two? Anyway, I'm not going to need a lot of pitch and roll control with this at higher speeds, obviously. So it was going to be kind of like an F-35, and then maybe stretch it out a little bit to kind of get more airfoil, kind of concord it, and then go from there. All right, what's going on in the chat? What are you talking about? I don't know what Riz and Skipidi. You lost me, guys, on that one. Maybe I'm old. What? Why is everyone laughing, man? You tricked me, huh? Yay. Oh, man. Last night was an adventure. So I had people across the street over on the property that they're not supposed to be on. That's mine, basically. And they decided to bring their mini dirt bikes. And I went out there and tried to yell at them to get off the property. And there was 3 of them. And there was one guy on the street, and as soon as I started talking, the first thing he did was start revving up his engine. So I immediately wanted to handle that with violence, but I refrained. I couldn't get a hold of the other guys to get off of the property because they were farther down, because it's like close to 5 acres. So I did what I normally do. I launched a flashbang in the air so that they could, get the idea that I'm out there trying to get their attention. And one of the other kids, then they stopped. They stopped and started listening. Like, what? What do you want? And I'm like, what do you think I want? Get off the property. There's a fence there for a reason. They find a hole in the fence and they ride through, and they're trying to. I'm like, if you fall in one of those holes down there, that's it. And if you've seen it, it's over for you. That's way more than 30 feet of old dark water under rickety concrete. So riding those bikes through there, my worry is anybody being over there is going to get hurt, and I didn't want that to happen. But then they became belligerent because all of a sudden they all surrounded me with their bikes and were threatening me and stuff like that. And he's like, "Oh, put that thing away and I'll throw hands," one of them. And then I get out. And so I handed the launcher to my son and I said, "Hold on to this." And I walked back and I said, "Okay, get off your bike." And he wouldn't. The other two didn't even bother to even attempt to get off the bike. He was just yelling at me. And I'm like, "I don't want you guys on the property." And it was just, they were like revving up their engines, trying to be loud so that I would raise my voice. And because you know how they do, they ride around here and they have no genitalia. So they were trying to prove that they were men somehow by trespassing on tiny little, excuse my language, but the shittiest little dirt bikes I've ever seen in my life. And they were shining their lights in my eyes and surrounding me in the middle of the street. And I was right. You guys said, "Hey, get off your bike if you're guys right." He told me, "Use it." "Oh, I'll throw hands." I'm like, "Get off and throw hands in." I was like angry, but nobody moved. Nobody got off their bikes. They just sat there and talked amongst themselves. And I got the one idiot to the side of me going, "I could trespass. They're not going to do anything to me. I could smoke crack in front of a cop and they'll let me go." I'm like, "You do that. I want to see that happen. I want to just go right ahead. I'm sure they book you, fingerprint you, then let you out, but you're still going to jail at one point." And then they asked me, of course, why I had, they're like, "Why do you care about this property?" I said, "Because it's mine." "Why do you think I care?" I was like, "How do I know it's yours?" I said, "You're on the cameras on the property. Here you are on the cameras." And then the young one, ginger looking fool, he goes, "Oh, those cameras only record for 30 seconds. And started laughing at his friend like he had made some kind of point. Like I have no idea how my security system works that I installed and built. He was an idiot. And the last people that did it, you saw the idiots in training video, I'm sure. They went in, they took the camera down, right? They stole the camera. Like, I'm not going to have the video. They're like, "Oh, if we take this, he's not going to have any evidence." And I was like, these guys are stupid. You break into the building and you try to tag the walls and stuff like that, and you steal the camera? Like, I'm not going to have the video? The cops were just laughing at it. They're like, "He thinks he got away with it." And then before that, it was another set of three guys stole another camera. I was watching the camera while he did it. I'm like, "That's it. I'm done." So I walk out, flashbang over there, boom. A little bird banger. They're not illegal or anything like that. Got their attention, scare him. He walks up out of the, from underneath the fence and gets mad at me. And he's like, "What the bro?" And, starts cursing and stuff like that. And I have my weapon, of course. I don't know what he's got. And because he's walking up on me fast, and I'm thinking, fine, that's all there is to it. And it pisses me off. It's like you see a fence, it might have a hole in the fence or something like that. It's still a fence. It means it's not even your property, for one. So it's like the whole thing has been a complete headache. It really has been, because I have to deal with uneducated, stupid young kids who I'm trying to keep from killing themselves by going into this winery that is deadly, and they don't get it. Any one of those idiots could have run around through the auger pits and then came out the other side where there are poles in the ground at an angle you can't see in the dark. There's no lights over there. I was waiting for one of them to, freaking ignorantly laugh themselves into a Vlad the Impaler situation. Bikes laying on the ground. They're just kind of over the top of the pole. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm trying to save your life, and all you're doing is being disrespectful and trying to rev. And then the older dude, he was older. He had you could call it a beard. It looked more like he grabbed a tumbleweed and just kind of, it was horrible. You could see right through it to his really non-existent jaw. And he was wearing, "I'll be back." I'm like, yeah, what are you, freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger? You're not going to come back. You didn't come back. You wouldn't even get off your bike when I disarmed myself. And you said you wanted to throw hands, so I was going to go defend myself. gosh, man, it's like dealing with that, and then constantly having to do this. It's I don't know. I had to get that off my chest because it's just insane. It's like follow the law so the law doesn't arrest you when it comes to doing stuff. Okay, just follow the law. Follow the law, because when my temper's short like that, the law is typically too far away to save you when we get right here. Okay, so and I don't need that kind of headache. So if anybody locally knows me and is watching, which they probably aren't because of where I live, and I'm doing something technical and scientific, they're not going to watch it. They'd rather see somebody, using Gorilla Glue as hairstyle gel or something. So they're not watching me. That's just the way it is. Airsoft turret. That's what I need. I'm telling you, it makes me feel bad because I try to keep them from getting hurt, and I also get a little bit upset because they're trespassing and breaking stuff, or tagging the building, which I got to go take care of afterwards. Because then the city comes by and goes, somebody tagged your building. And I'm like, no, say it ain't so. You mean that big ass tag that I can see over there? Thanks for telling me. I live right across the street from it. And he's like, you got to cover it up. I'm like, really? It's just like one thing after the other. And then these guys last night surrounded me in the street, revved up on me with their bikes and stuff like that. And I held my ground, and I was like, I'm not afraid of any of you. Any of you. I missed the war. Okay? I missed the war. I just stop talking and get off the bike. Do something. That's what I want you to do. And when you say you're going to come back, I'll be back. You know how many times I've freaking heard that from idiots around here that got mad? I throw them off the property. I'll be back. For what? A checkup? I'm not a doctor. Just get down the road. All you're doing is trying to steal the copper out of my machines and to supply your stupid fentanyl habits. Just get the heck out of here and leave me alone. Like, I got work to do. Stubby fans where I'm at. Okay. I don't have time to deal with the plebs out there. If you put yourself in that position, I feel sorry for you, but it's your problem. Stay off my property and you go home. Period. All right. So sorry I had to get that out there. It just irritates me, because it takes away from me. I'm like in the garage working on the fan, and I hear these damn dirt bikes. I don't care about the dirt bikes. I loved it. Honestly, if they would have asked me, I would have said, here's the safe place you can run up and down with your dirt bikes for a couple minutes, have some fun. And I would have let them. Because I don't care. I would have told them where it's safe to do some, running back and forth, have fun. I've been totally fine with that. But they didn't. They didn't give me a chance to even get to that point. They wanted to be belligerent teenage children or semi-adults that are acting like absolute children and whining like a baby and making threats and not doing anything about it it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe they just were afraid of me and they just had to talk and laugh it off because they were getting nervous and trying to, laugh it off and be funny and stuff like that. And then they take off when I'm on the phone because I know the sheriff around here, so I'm on the phone. I'm like, can you take care of this problem? I don't want to have to hurt anybody again. And so they take off and they're flipping me off as they take off. I almost did it on camera. I'm sorry. And they're flipping me off as they take off. And I'm like, oh, how offensive. It's like, what is that, like your last word? I'm an angry fool. That's basically what they did. And if they do see me alive and they know this, where I'm at and stuff like that, please. You have your whole life ahead of you. Don't try anything stupid. Okay, please. You have your whole life ahead of you. Okay. Jail isn't worth it. If you bring a weapon to try and do something, it's not worth it. You know, it's not worth it. I want you to keep living. Okay. Make the right decisions. All right. And, gosh, you can't take the trailer out of some people. And I'm not saying that to be like label anybody, because I grew up on the street, man. I didn't have a house, so I mean, I get it. They wanted to go out and have fun. It's just, don't do it on my property. Plain and simple. Especially when I'm working on a project like this. Because as somebody who does, according to my wife, have ADHD, when you're hyper fixated on something like this and you're just designing and you continuously do stuff, like this, and you don't want to stop because you're getting results and you're getting somewhere, and then they come in and they interrupt me like that. It infuriates me. So I gotta cool down, take some pipe tobacco and kind of calm down, and then just move on. Just move on. It's that simple. The whole world's going mad out there anyway. Everyone's just mad at everything. I mean, universities have cry rooms now. For what? For what? Oh, I love it. Well, you know what? I am glad you guys are all just the people that are here, the people that are interested in the hobby, the people that are interested in the 3D printing, if you get inspired by this at all, which I know Spider already has, because he's come up with some pretty interesting designs I want to try and do here. So it's just designing stuff in Fusion off of a DAT file sometimes doesn't go as we planned. So I'm going to have to go off the canvas work and do it that way. This fan and those fans, those were the twins. Those are going to be operated by a single gear and a heavy torque motor, and 3-to-1 gear to ratio to a 2-to-1. So it's 6-to-1. And that's basically because I wanted to kind of make something for an F-22. Friend, Chad over here, he's going to try and fly the things. And that's good because my wife's not going to let me get in anything I build. I don't know why. Sorry, Chad. Do you have good medical coverage? Because you're willingly getting into like an aircraft with an engine that I built. So I'm honored that you have that kind of trust. I really am. So I'm not talking about the Mach One, so don't worry about that. No, the twins were for more or less another project. So we're gonna go with the F-35 frame. I guess I can't call it an F-35. It'll just be something else. It won't look exactly like it because I'm going to go strictly for the aerodynamics that I'm looking for. Make sure that the leading edges are suitable and that they are insulated enough. And then I've got to figure out at my altitude and my humidity, the air density, and so on and so forth, what the pressure on the system is going to be at a specific speed, specifically the sound barrier. And then see if it can handle, because I don't think a 3D print can handle the stress of going to Mach 1. But it depends on really how you print it. I think it could. If the leading edges are what you're worried about, then it's just a matter of getting the heat off of those leading edges. So what we need to do, I like that, DBC-35A. There we go. That'll be right along the side of the fuselage right there, right? So ADHD. Where was I? Okay. Leading edges, we're going to get those taken care of. And then the structural integrity as you break the sound barrier, I have to figure out the dynamic pressure on the rest of the skin, on the rest of the body in the fuselage. And then we got to go from there. And then we're going to cut it out on the MPCNC. So at that point is when we're going to decide whether we're doing aluminum, whether we're doing carbon fiber, whether we're doing, thick balsa, and then skinning it with either a 3D print or doing a carbon fiber wrap and then vacuum bagging it. I don't know, honestly, yet what heat I'm going to get over the top of the airfoil, under the airfoil. I just know that the leading edges are the main thing I'm worried about. And then we've got to make sure during the testing phase of this will be on the bench, like you've seen with the Stuby Fan V1. And then at that point, we're going to go and see what this does with the Typhoon. The smaller motor, the turbojet, will be with the Predator. And then I don't have to worry about any of that balancing issues. Then at that point, we'll know what we're dealing with. If I don't have a load sensor in the beginning, I still have the fish scale. So as funny as that sounds, we'll go for it. I've got so many Arduino sensors. I just got to dig the box out and find them, and then we'll go from there. Because basically, Stubby lost his hat. Okay, hold on. I'm not real worried about that one. The whole thing's modular. So the idea is, you can take things off, and now you can pull a few screws out and you can get into the low turbine system here, which is actually the impeller at this point. And that is to supply high pressure air to an afterburner. So most of the testing that we're going to have out of this round is going to be how much air am I getting out of this nozzle on the impeller, and how much air am I getting through the high pass fan, and go from there and see if I've got enough airflow through here, because I can measure both separately. If I get the airspeed reader, I can go into the ducting onto the fan side, and then I can go down into the compressor side here, and basically, or the impeller side here, and see the difference on the airflow speeds between the two. The reason why this doesn't necessarily have to be pushing as much air as the main fan is because this will be directed out into the afterburner shaft. So, and again, we hadn't even figured in the afterburner into the calculations on the speed. So, without knowing realistically what thrust I'll get out of that, and I'll have to get the dimensions on the the actual tube I'm going to use for that afterburner, and then what fuel I think we'll end up using for that. And then hold on, Stubby's hat. Then we'll go from there. So it'll be cool, be fun. So that's what I need y'all be looking for next. And I am so close to 1,000 subscribers. Can we get it over the line? Let's get it over the line, man. You gotta share it with your friends. Hold them down, make them subscribe, and then we'll go from there. Oh, one other thing before we end this. That Typhoon does have an external heat sink, and it does require about 2 minutes of cool down at a low throttle, so that there's no heat soaking that could damage the engine. So the mount goes here, the motor is here, and the heat sink is right over it. So it's just right in the air channel. So it's like Stuby V1. So that gives it a chance to cool down. The only thing is with Stuby V1, I was running an 800 kV outrunner, so I couldn't really put a heat sink on it because I don't want the heat sink to get thrown off the outrunner. So that's why I switched to in runners, and then that's where we're going to go from there, because that gives me the opportunity to, basically have another form of heat sink on the system that I don't have to worry about getting thrown off at 17,000 RPMs or 40,000 RPMs or so on and so forth. Okay. Because that would make my wife angry, me catching any more plastic to the face or anything like that. Luckily, blowing up a couple of turbines, I haven't had any issues. It was when I was messing with the hydrogen that she got nervous. It was when the first Gatorade bottle blew up. And, that's how you learn. I still have all my fingers. I'm telling you. And I definitely have to get better cameras. I was actually thinking about, I want to get a couple of good, decent GoPros. And I probably already said this. Did I say this already? Oh, no, I may have said it somewhere else. Anyway, I was going to put some Instas on the jet, but I'm like, if I'm hitting 500-600 miles an hour, is that Insta going to stay on there? I'm going to have to embed it in the body and then just have the top of the camera sticking out. I'm going to have to fly this FPV because if I don't, I'm not going to have any real positive control. Because, we've got to have a long stretch to pick up the speed to get to max throttle slowly, so I'm not overstressing the fan in the beginning. So I'm going to have to put a camera in the cockpit. I'm going to have to go on goggles, and I'm going to have to fly this thing FPV. Otherwise, there's no way to track it. There's no way for me to track it from the ground to the sky when I have to go out half a mile, circle back around, and then kick it in, and then start gaining speed. There's just no way to do it. But I don't know what you guys are all talking about in the chat right now. Nothing to do with what I'm saying. They're just like, yay, another live chat channel. So I'd like to know what you all think. Even if you watch this live stream after the fact, leave a comment. I think you can still leave a comment, right? And just kind of let me know what you think, of the whole concept. Because when I started getting the results I started getting out of Stuby Fan, I was very optimistic. And, when you're moving a 50-pound iron table across the floor over carpet, and because the engine's strapped to it, you've got something good, right? And that was just with an 800 kV prop motor. Because originally the idea was, let's do this with off-the-shelf components. So these are still off-the-shelf RC components. They're just more expensive. Like, take a mortgage out of my kidney, more expensive. So the ESC by itself was $304. And that doesn't seem like a lot to most. But my first job I made $4.25 an hour. So the heat sink's $44. The motor itself is actually $149. Motor is cheaper than the ESC. So yeah, 450 plus 50, 500. Oh, well, you got to have the FJU thermal grease. So that's another $4. And then priority shipping for $3 to $28. Why are these options? Anyway, motor diameter on that one is 50 millimeters. The length is 67.1 millimeters. Shaft diameter is 8 millimeters. Weight is 445 grams. Internal resistance is 11.6. No load current is 2.1. Max efficiency 88%. KV 685. Poles are 8. LiPo count 12s. Amp draw 125 amps. Thrust with the EcoJet 120 is estimated at 17.6 pounds. Obviously, it's a lot more. Oh, and it's 5,630 watts. The ESC that they're recommending, ESC settings, I think. Cut off low voltage, set to auto, standard limiting. Current limiting is standard. Brake type disabled. Definitely don't want any braking on the turbine. Advanced timing, 5 to 10 degrees, low. Cutoff type hard. I may not want that. Start type fast start. I don't want to fart. I don't want to fart. I don't want a fast start fart. I want a soft start because of the torque I'm going to get on these engines because of these fans where we want a soft start, not a fast fart start. Oh, if we could only clip the outtakes, right? I know Spider's clipping the outtake right now. Fast fart. Governor mode auto. PWM 16K. Oh, they're telling me to put insurance on the package too. I feel like they're trying to get every bit of money they can out of me on this order. Like, you got to do the shipping, and you have to do the insurance, and you have to do the heat sink, and you have to do the thermal grease, and you have to do the ESC. It's like, I know, okay? Just take my car, give me the engine. I'm telling you. The Predator is a bit cheaper for the other fan, but it's still, the ESCs, I'm still looking at $200. So between those two, it's like 200. And the Typhoon and the Typhoon's ESC, you're looking at like 500. So I doubt I'll be building these for mass production, until we get it to a situation where I'm spooling my own stators and making my own motors based on my specific mass and rotation. But eventually, Stubby Fan will be out there as a complete unit or a do-it-yourself unit. And then you guys can have some fun with it. I want to share it with everyone, of course. I want everybody to enjoy the hobby. So I do appreciate everyone who did show up tonight. I appreciate you also letting me go on that tirade about the trespassers. I needed to get that off my chest. But in the end, the project is Mach One. Can we get there? And everybody who's given me ideas, everyone who's given me different, apps like Mission Planner, for example. Art and Arduino. Did you say, what is it? Adria. I have no idea what that is. Mission chart. I'll have to check that out. Mission Planner, I'm aware of. The only problem is I don't want to put the hands of something going Mach 1 into the straight control of a Speedy B F405 wing with iNav. I kind of want to have some control over the situation. Because the last thing I want is somebody calling me, like, excuse me, sir. There was a small F-35 that went through my house. I'm just kind of wondering. And I don't even know if the sonic boom because I'm going to have to drop down to 100 feet. So this is going to be a low fast pass, not a slow fart start. So I have to drop down to 100 feet because if we radar gun this, I don't even think we can pick it up on a radar gun, to be honest with you. And if it doesn't get picked up on the radar gun with as big as the wingspan is going to have to be, then I accidentally designed a stealth aircraft, which is hard to get a speed on. So I'm going to have to use a lot of different data points So, maybe a ground radar, like we said, like a radar gun. I know, like I said, I know sheriffs around here. I'm sure they'll be interested in doing it. And the onboard telemetry and data, which I can collect from the Speedy F405 wing. Yes, Speedy, you should be honored that I'm trying this with your stuff. Not so much you, advanced power drives, for cutting everything off and going totally commercial and leaving us drone enthusiasts in the dust. Hopefully one of these days they realize that they just completely cut the entire market. I don't know who's in charge of that place. It must be the same people that are in charge of Dollar General. They're like, we need more of this. We sold it all out. And they send you completely something totally different. So, yeah. So I don't know where the disconnect is, but ADP, I have to spend the money to make sure I'm LLC'd in order to buy if I'm UN. Plus, I don't even know if you're going to make me buy like 300 of them before you even let me buy them. It's like, just give me the damn power distribution boards. How about you make sales and just send them to me? I'll use them on my systems, and then it'll show everybody what it can do, and then you can sell more stuff to people. Because once I become a commercial agency, maybe I won't use your products. How about that? They're probably going, oh, we don't care. You're just a guy in your garage. So is Bill Gates, buddy. So we all start somewhere. So I didn't expect things to go this far with this fan. They have. The data's there. We're going for it. So it may take some time, and I hope you're all with me on the journey, on the process of trying to get to Mach 1 with this fan. So I appreciate everyone that came tonight and listened and watched, or the ones that jumped in and said, this guy's boring and left. Still counts as a view. Let's try to get to 1,000 subscribers though, or I'm going to cry. I am going to cry. I'll do it on camera. That way you can all feel like, safe or whatever. I don't freaking know. Well, when the store is up, I'll let you know, and you can get your DPC merch. You guys let me know if you want me to make a DPC product. What are you looking for? You're like, Stubby fan? Cute. Love that cup. I'm telling you, it's awesome. Alrighty. Any last questions, or are we still doing Arduino? You mean ArduPilot? I've worked with ArduPilot, and Arduino Pilot. Oh, you're literally talking like an Arduino Pilot. Oh, that would be interesting. All I gotta do is put one line of code wrong, and that's it. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fart. I'm boring. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I don't think it's gonna radar. We're gonna have to go off of data and telemetry, just to kind of get an idea. I think GPS will give us an idea if I can get some pings at certain locations to give us our speed. But I think the sonic boom will give it away. I just hope I don't break any windows. It's small, so it should. It's a small craft. It's not going to be as big as a traditional craft, but I don't know if that matters when you break the sound barrier. But that's where we're going, ladies and gents. It's going to be a long process and a long road, but an RC plane doing Mach 1 is within reach. And I'm excited about it. I really am. I want it to happen. I really want this to work well. And we'll start with that testing as soon as that Typhoon gets here. Stupid back order. It's on back order, but it's available. Available is not on back order. Back order is not available. You know, it's available. You could get it. You just don't know when. So that's what I'm waiting for. So I'm taking this time now to basically make sure all the printed components are done, and that everything is, you know, finished and lined up perfectly and balanced. And I'm going to take that time, but I can't even do the fan. I can't even do the fan until I know which spool I'm using, because I got to build the insert for the spool and then boolean it to the fan before I print it. So yeah, that. So that's what I'm dealing with. So I can't even print this stupid fan. I want to print the fan. I was like, that's why I put that last motor on there and burnt it. You're like, you told me you were going to end this. Why are you still here? But that's why I put that last Dobofo engine on, that like 2100 kV for a 70 millimeter, and I smoked it with this because, I mean, it smoked quick. I didn't even get up into RPMs. I tried to kind of spool it up slow, and it was sounding pretty good, but it just burnt. And I expected it to, but I was bored because I'm still waiting for this motor. So, scaled composite, and it was on all. I have no idea what that means. Scaled composite, what? Excuse me. Scaled composite, what? Don't leave me hanging. Amazon, all garage companies. Wait, is that code? Are you a wind talker? I'm still trying to figure out what you're talking about. Yeah, I know, Stuby fan, but scaled composite, Amazon, all garage. I don't understand what that means. It may have made sense if I had remembered what I told you 10 seconds ago. Waiting for Chad to respond. Type, Chad, type. If you're on a phone, have a girl do it. For some reason, is like super thumbs. I don't get it. My wife does it too. I'm like sitting here trying to predictive text type, and I'm speaking into it, and it's getting stuff wrong all the time. But when my wife answers on the cell on the thing, it's like she's got it all. It's like, hey, could you make me a grocery list? It's like there, just like that. It's like, how do you do that? You know? Point A to B, time to B. What I don't understand. Okay. Chad, are you having a stroke? I'm just curious. Point A to B timed to B. And now he's laughing. You better share whatever you're smoking. Yes. 4 feet. F-35. Well, yeah. You're talking a wingspan? Or length of the aircraft? I imagine they'd be similar. The EPC language isn't for me. It's English. Well, y'all, I'm going to try and end it again. I appreciate y'all being here. I hope you enjoyed the content. I really do. And stay tuned for the testing. And I will get a Stuby fan version out there for RC flyers that want to fly on a 800 kV motor, something they can do off the shelf, so not spending, like I said, $500 on ESCs and motors just to get a turbofan working. So, and I'll make sure it's an in runner, something with a cooling sleeve, so you don't have to worry about heat. And I'll try and get a system set up so you have one that you can put on something and play with. So if you want to do a B-52 model or even any model you want that requires a 170 millimeter turbine. So until then, I will continue with this project. We are now commencing the Mach One project. And it's going to take some time, but we're going to get there. Fan's almost built. When I get the motor, can't wait to spin it up. I probably said that already 100,000 times, but I don't want to get offline with you guys. You're so cool. I don't know what the crap you're talking about half the time in here, but the garage companies. I am a garage company, but I'm also an engineer, so it helps. I don't like math, though. I now understand why Einstein hated math. You see, I can't end the stream now. You got me on going on something else. I do understand why he hated math, and I do understand why he skipped class a lot. He did. He was either smoking his pipe or, just fooling around on campus. He didn't make it to class half the time. That's why he ended up being a patent clerk. But he was Einstein, right? He couldn't focus on one thing or another to save his life. But look what he did. Theory of relativity. I'm telling you, man, quantum mechanics. I mean, I listen to a lot of books. And, when I have time and I'm working, I have to, because I have the tinnitus from the Army. So thank you, Army. So I constantly have a screaming in my ear that has been going on for well over 20 years now. And it never ends. Never. I don't remember what silence sounds like. Okay. So everyone tells me when I play my music too loud. Well, it's because I can't hear it. So I'm just trying to drown out the screaming for a little bit. Sometimes it drives me crazy. And I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. It's there. Let it motivate you. But yes, I have to end it. Because telling my wife that I have to be on for a little bit longer, like I did earlier, I made a mistake. And I said, she's like, my highlighters are drying up. And I'm like, well, stop using them. And then all of a sudden it was like, dumb ways to die. So many dumb ways to die. The look I got when I said, stop using your highlighters, you would think I just killed a kitten. Okay. Never say that. When you got a wife that's a Bible scholar getting ready to graduate and get her bachelor's degree in it, and you tell her, stop using your highlighters, then if they're drying up, no. I already got my pillow on the couch. So, yeah, buy highlighters. Just buy them. Just be like, tell me which brand, what kind, where they're at, where to get them. I'm getting them now. How dare they dry up on you? How dare they? That's what I should have said. But instead, I said, stop using them. And then, dumb ways to die. So there you go. All right, man. Love you all. I'll see you next time. And we will have an update. You'll more than likely see a test run of this before we do another live stream. And I just want you to, right now, for the record, I have all my digits. Okay? All right. So you know if I'm missing one or two, something happened to the fan. And I'd be more worried about the fan. They'd be like, grab the blade, grab the blade. Get my finger later. Grab the blade. We need to glue it back on. Anyway, y'all have a good evening. Love you.